Me and my husband have been together for 9 years, married for 5. We are now female, 29 years old, and male, 30 years old, but we started dating when we were 20 and 21. Over these last 9 years, he has been my best friend, my biggest supporter, and the best person I could have ever asked for. We have a beautiful marriage and 3 beautiful children, triplets. Our life is amazing. However, my husband and I recently fought over something that happened 9 years ago. Basically, when we had only been dating for 6 months, I accidentally got pregnant while I was on the pill. It was shocking, jarring, and confusing, and the first thing I did was tell my mom because I still lived with her at the time. I had no idea what to do. We were both broke. I was a year out from graduating college. He was just starting in the electrical industry, young, inexperienced, and barely capable of raising a baby. My mom calmed me down enough to call him, ask him to come over, and I told him I still remember that look on his face. He was shocked, then scared, then the briefest fleet of happy, and then back to scared. I just cried. I ended up being only 3 weeks pregnant at that point. Me and him and my mom talked a lot, and we all eventually decided that we would have the baby. We didn't tell anyone, not even our friends, because we were so scared. We secretly took pictures, and I hid my bump for 19 weeks, and then we lost the baby. I had to go through surgical removal of the fetus. He had to watch me sob every day for a year. We never had another scare like that ever again because we were so traumatized. My mom and his mom were the only reasons I got through it, honestly. I still can't believe I did it at only 20. I don't think I could do it now at almost 30. Anyway, by happenstance, our triplets share their birthday with the day that baby was surgically removed from my body. I didn't even realize it until my husband pointed it out. Now, every single one of their birthdays, there have been 3 now, my husband talks and talks and talks about that baby and how much he would have loved him. Our triplets are all girls. He talks about his boy all the time. He would be 9 now. My husband does it in front of the girls even. And now they've started to ask questions. They're too young to know or even understand. So I finally just asked my husband to stop. First of all, it's so painful for me to remember. Second of all, I don't ever want my girls to think that they are a replacement for the first baby we would have had, because they aren't. And third, I don't want them to ever think that Daddy wants a boy more than them. Their birthday was Sunday, and it's all I heard from him. It broke my heart on so many levels. Was I wrong to tell him that? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I am sorry for your loss. There is no timeline for grieving. Everybody handles loss in their own way. There are some people who consider the pregnancies they lost to be their children, even though they ended before birth. I have a friend who does. She speaks of having a child in heaven. Just like you, it was her first pregnancy. She carried it for 2 trimesters. She never named the baby, but sometimes expectant parents who lose the pregnancy do name the baby. Some place a headstone at the cemetery. I don't pass judgment, I only offer that you should not either. Perhaps there are ways you and your husband could memorialize what he considers to be his first child. Channel it into something that is recognized so he can grieve the loss in a healthy way. It sounds as though he does not want that first pregnancy to be forgotten, and maybe he wants his girls to know about it. If so, maybe you could talk to him about it and find some age-appropriate ways to do that. Comment 2. Everyone experiences loss differently. I lost my first child during the pregnancy. My husband was sad, but after I conceived again for him, it's like it didn't happen. We have 2 lovely children that are grown. But even now, I choose to acknowledge that child/loss. A friend of mine suggested infant loss 24 hours of light, the Wave of Light ceremony. It's a worldwide ceremony of lighting a candle in memory of your baby child from 7 to 8 p.m. in your time zone on October 15th. So in essence, a candle will be lit for 24 hours honoring these babies in heaven. I'm not a very religious person, but this is my one link I have done. My kids always smile now that they are older and know what it is for. It brings me a little peace. Now, for the update. A little over a month has passed since the latest birthday, and things are still pretty rocky between me and my husband. I thought maybe a little family fun would help, So I suggested we plan a little family outing. We decided on a weekend trip to a nearby amusement park. I knew the girls would love that. My husband seemed excited about it all, but I noticed he kept bringing up our lost baby while we were planning the trip. It honestly felt really hurtful at times, but I just kept my mouth shut. The girls were looking forward to this, and I wanted the trip to be as enjoyable as possible for them. The day of the trip, we packed the car with snacks and games for the ride. We were about halfway to the amusement park when my husband brought up how he would have loved to take our son on the rides. I felt really upset, but I didn't say anything. I just kept focusing on what a great time the girls were going to have. They were already asking about the rides and the games they could play, so I didn't want anything to ruin their excitement. When we got to the park, the girls ran ahead to the entrance and we followed closely behind. While we were waiting in line for a ride, my husband brought up our lost baby again. This time, it was in front of a family with a little boy. I could feel myself getting really tense as I tried to remain calm. The girls were looking confused by him mentioning their brother, and I just wanted to get on the ride and get away from all of it. After the ride, we stopped for lunch, and my husband brought up the baby again while we were discussing our future family plans. I just couldn't take it anymore. I interrupted him and asked him to stop bringing it up, especially in front of our daughters. He was surprised by my outburst and said he was just remembering. The girls noticed the tension and asked if everything was okay, which only made me more frustrated. We managed to finish lunch, but the vibe was totally off. My husband went quiet after that. I suggested we visit a show, hoping to distract everyone for a little while. During the show, my husband stood up to take a photo of the girls. When he returned, he looked visibly upset. He told me that he felt like I was trying to erase our past, which led to us having a heated discussion. I clarified that I just wanted to protect our daughters from the pain of loss. The argument continued. He felt unsupported, and I felt unheard. We ended up leaving the amusement park earlier than we had planned, and the tension was just really bad. Back home, my husband distanced himself. He spent his evenings in the garage working on a project. The girls and I would be inside, watching movies or playing games, and he would be out there, keeping to himself. I found it hard to engage with him. It felt like we were just living separate lives. One evening, while I was cleaning the living room, I found a box tucked away in the corner. It was labeled Memories, and I was curious, so I opened it up. Inside were mementos related to our lost baby, including ultrasound photos and letters from family. I was honestly shocked to see it all. I thought he had thrown all of that away a long time ago. The discovery led me to confront him about it. I asked him why he was keeping these memories alive in a different way. He admitted he had been struggling with the loss, but the way he expressed it was hurting our family. We agreed to talk about the baby in a private space away from the kids. A week later, he suggested we have a small family memorial on the anniversary of the loss. I felt uneasy about this. I didn't want to dismiss his feelings, but it just didn't sit right with me. We planned an intimate ceremony in our backyard, inviting only close family members. On the day of the memorial, the girls were curious about what was happening. My husband explained that it was a way to remember their brother, but the girls didn't fully understand. They were just happy to be outside playing. Thank you for reading. Edit. I want to clarify that when I mentioned my husband and I living separate lives, it was not a formal separation. We still share our home and responsibilities, mainly for the sake of the girls. The box of memories I found was a surprise to me. I had no idea he still had those items from 9 years ago. Am I the idiot for calling out my wife's immaturity and lack of parenting skills? Am I the idiot for calling out my wife's immaturity and lack of parenting skills? Am I the idiot for calling out my wife's parenting failures in front of our friends and family? About 6 months ago, my wife gave birth to our beautiful baby girl, and it was one of the best moments in our lives. My wife was on maternity leave for about 3 months and then went back to work. She was actually supposed to be on maternity leave for a month longer, but decided to go back to work early. This information is important later. My wife and I both work full-time jobs, And currently, we have a family member who is babysitting her every day. During the time when my wife was at home full-time on maternity leave, I noticed that my wife's sister would come over a lot to help her. I didn't think much of it, as I'm sure it was nice to have some help when I wasn't there. Her sister would initially come over maybe once or twice a week, but that radically changed into every single day. Sometimes I would get home, and my wife's sister would still be there helping her with the baby. I gently asked if everything was okay, to which my wife dismissed it as her just needing help. My wife's sister, on the other hand, pulled me aside one time and told me that my wife was having a hard time being around the baby, especially when she needs a diaper change, throws up, or does other messy things babies do. I brushed it off as something that she would get over. About 3 months after my wife gave birth, my wife decides she wants to go back to work a month early. And since then, we've both been working full-time with the babysitter coming 4 days a week. This is where I start noticing more about my wife's behavior towards our baby. The few times my wife has changed our daughter's diaper, I could hear her gagging. My wife is a highly sensitive person and gets grossed out easily. She hates when people chew with their mouths open. She can't look at anything remotely unsettling before a meal, or she'll lose her appetite. We don't own any pets because she thinks animals are gross, etc. These are all things that I didn't think too much about, as everyone has different sensitivity levels. And I thought she knew what she was getting herself into when we both agreed that we wanted kids. Kids are messy and gross sometimes, and I thought she could handle it. She then started asking me to change our daughter's diaper every single time. When my daughter throws up, she expects me to clean it up every single time. Even now, when our daughter is crying, she almost ignores her and side glances to me that I should deal with it. I have no problem doing these things, but when I ask her why she can't do it, she says things like poop grosses her out because she doesn't like the smell or the sight of it. This has really started to affect me because our daughter usually wakes up around 3 a.m. for a diaper change, and I am expected every morning to get up and change her when it should be a switch off every other night. It's really starting to affect my work. So a couple of nights ago, when she woke me up to tell me to change our daughter's diaper, it was around 4 a.m., and I snapped and told her that she needs to step it up as a parent and a mom and help me do these things, as I can't always be the one to do them every single time. I told her that I thought it was weird and immature that she couldn't do the simplest things like changing a diaper. She obviously didn't like that, and she's been giving me the cold shoulder since then. How should I approach the situation? And am I the jerk here? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Is your wife holding, kissing, and being affectionate with the baby? If not, it could be a detachment disorder or postpartum depression on top of her sensory issues with sounds and smells. This is a problem. Please watch her around the baby. If you see no attachment, you need to make some decisions. Comment 2. Get a box of surgical masks and some Vicks. Put some Vicks on the inside of a mask and set it out where it's away from the baby's reach, but easy to grab, and try that. She can probably use the one mask a couple times before the Vicks wears off. Now for the update. A couple of weeks have passed since the fight over parenting responsibilities, and honestly, it's been a total mess. I mean, my wife and I have barely spoken since that night. It's like we're living in the same house, but we're just two strangers sharing space. Makes you feel so warm and fuzzy, right? So, my wife has been spending more time at her sister's place after work. I'm talking like she comes home just to sleep, and even that's a struggle. She used to help out with our daughter when she got home, but now, no idiots here. It's all on me, buddy. I can see she's definitely not interested in spending time with her family. During family dinners, she's as distant as the moon. She'll sit there, eat her food, and not say a word. Her sister used to stay and help with our daughter for a bit, but now she just drops our kid off and leaves. Yay for family support, I guess? I found out that my wife has been going out with her friends on the weekends. Like, really? She's got time for that, but not for her own family? A family member told me she had dinner with her friends last Saturday. Meanwhile, I was home, juggling our baby, laundry, and whatever else needed doing. Just another Saturday night in paradise. So, I'm just trying to get through this one day at a time. I focus on taking care of our daughter, and honestly, she's the only light in this situation. One evening, I find this message on my wife's phone from her sister. They're talking about plans for a weekend trip, and I couldn't help but notice a message hinting at a break from parenting responsibilities. Yep, you read that right. A break. I decided it was time to talk to my wife about this little trip. Confrontation time. She acted like I was being ridiculous for even bringing it up. I mean, really? I'm the one overreacting? Not the one wanting to run away from her responsibilities? Then, I overhear this conversation between my wife and her sister. They're talking about needing a break from all of this. All of what, you ask? Our child. Parenting duties. I mean, how can you say that about your own kid? I planned a family gathering for our daughter's first birthday at a local venue. I thought, let's get both sides of the family together. Maybe it'll create a supportive atmosphere. I also secretly informed my family about the situation with my wife. I didn't want to air our dirty laundry, but I needed their support. The birthday party is a week away, and I'm determined to make it memorable. The day before the party, I get a text from my wife's sister. She asks if she can take our daughter for the weekend. I had to decline and tell her we have plans for the birthday. I mean, come on. The night before the party, my wife leaves to stay overnight at her sister's house. Finally, the big day arrives. The venue is filled with family and friends, and I'm just glad to see everyone here for our daughter. My wife shows up late, looking frazzled and totally unprepared. It's not like this was a surprise party. We've been planning this for a while now. I've organized games and activities for the kids and adults, to make it fun for everyone. During the cake cutting, I made a speech about parenting and teamwork. I threw in how important it is to be present for our daughter. I wanted to say that I know it's a tough job, but it's our job. The guests responded positively, and you could feel the atmosphere shift. I saw a lot of heads nodding in agreement. My wife looked uncomfortable, and I couldn't help but notice her squirming in her chair. After the party, my wife confronts me about my speech. She's not happy, and neither am I, to be honest. The argument escalates, and our voices are raised. She goes silent, and I can tell she's starting to realize the gravity of the situation. I mean, it was all fun and games until I started calling her out in front of our family, right? She storms out, leaving me alone with our daughter. I just look at her and think, well, we survived another day. The next day, I get a call from my wife's sister. She's concerned about our marriage and asks if we need help. Honestly, I'm not even surprised. Edit, it's been around a week since the birthday party and things have changed. My wife has moved into her sister's house, and she rarely sees our daughter. My wife calls to talk about us, but she avoids discussing parenting responsibilities. I'm considering therapy for myself to cope with everything. Am I the idiot for refusing to let an obese man invade my space on a 6-hour flight? Am I the idiot for refusing to let an obese man take over my seat on a flight? Am I the idiot for refusing to let an obese man take over my seat on a flight? On a cross-country flight from Washington to Florida, I had purchased a window seat. I boarded the plane and took my seat, but when the couple who had the adjoining seats boarded, I saw the man was quite obese. I assumed he would take the aisle seat, and his much slimmer partner would take the center. Instead, the big guy starts to wedge himself into the center seat and proceeds to raise the armrest on my side. I put it back down, and he got huffy, saying it pressed into his side and made him uncomfortable. I replied that I understood that might be the case, but I was not going to spend a 6-hour flight with him pressing up against me. He started getting loud and called me fat-phobic, yada, yada, yada. I replied, again calmly, that his life choices don't mean I have to be forced to endure a long flight with someone else spilling over into my seat. He proceeded to manspread and put his right foot under the seat in front of me. I asked him to move his foot politely, and he said, "I have a right to be comfortable too." At this point, I called for the flight attendant and asked her if there was another seat available, as this person was being rather ignorant and not willing to compromise. Sadly, there wasn't. I asked the attendant if there was anything she could do. The attendant was great and politely asked the man to swap with his partner, who said she was fine with that. But the big boy said, "No, I don't want to have to get up every time you need to use the bathroom." So I thanked the flight attendant for trying and let her know that I would be getting up every 20 to 30 minutes to use the restroom because I have a small bladder, unless they swapped seats, in which case I might be able to hold it for the majority of the flight. The big boy finally got the hint and agreed to swap with his wife. Another larger passenger chimed in to say I was ignorant and judgmental for forcing him to change seats and embarrassing him in public. I disagree. The wife actually apologized for his behavior, and in return, I made sure she had the armrest for the entire flight, especially since he put the one between them up and was half in her seat. I also enjoyed seeing the big boy get whacked with the drink cart every time they came up the aisle. So maybe I am a bit of an AH, but in this case, I feel it was deserved. Let's hear what Reddit has to say. To add, I didn't expect this to get more than a couple dozen responses, so I won't be responding to everyone, but please don't turn this into an attack thread about obese, larger individuals. His weight was a factor, but his attitude created the conflict. 2 points. I poorly phrased the armrest comment with his wife. She was very nice and very polite. I simply made sure that she knew she was entitled to the armrest for the flight. Given that the armrest is what started the whole encounter, I didn't want her to think I'd try to claim the armrest out of pique. I am well aware of the custom that grants the armrest to the middle seat. I'm not a barbarian. I accept that the life choices comment was asshole-ish. That's where I felt like I'd lost the moral high ground and what prompted me to post. I certainly don't regret standing up for my boundaries, but I did escalate by my response. I can tell myself I was provoked, or he made it personal first by calling me fat-phobic to gaslight his own behavior. The truth is, I said something unkind that I didn't need to say. I'd rather grow from a hard truth than comfort myself with a self-serving lie. Oh yes, one more. I enjoy the irony of having my post labeled as another fake story. As my comment history will show, I'm a big fan of calling out the AI-generated pablum infesting this sub. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. I am so tired of reading these types of posts on Reddit. You paid for your seat. All of it. People are just jerks, whether they are traveling with kids and expect you to give up your seat for their kid when they only paid for one seat, or someone large rudely encroaching into your space. This particular guy is a complete and utter fool. Comment 2. I'm a fairly large guy, not obese, just broad shoulders. It irks me when people walk down the aisle and hit every single person in their seat, turn sideways when you walk, and be mindful of others. If I can do it, so can they. I also try to create as slim of a profile as I can on a flight and avoid middle seats when I can. Now for the update. It's been a little over a month since the flight incident, and things have gotten worse with my family. My parents organized a family dinner to celebrate their anniversary. I went with my partner, my younger sister, and my older brother and his wife. I got there early and helped set the table. It was the same table where my brother used to throw his food at my dad's head when he was 3. My dad used to say it was because he was so excited to eat. I think he was just a jerk. Anyway, during dinner, my brother announced that they were expecting a baby. Everyone cheered, even my dad, who hated babies. I felt a mix of happiness and pressure. My partner, who's close with my brother, joined in the celebration. My brother joked about needing a bigger house, and I laughed along, even though I knew he just bought a mansion 4 months ago. Later in the meal, my brother mentioned how they were saving for the baby's future. My partner made a comment about how we should start saving too. I brushed it off, thinking it was just a joke. My brother continued talking about his plans for the baby, showing off a new baby book. I felt uncomfortable as the conversation shifted to family planning. My brother's wife chimed in about how they were already picking names. My partner suddenly asked when I was planning to propose. I froze, realizing this was not the right moment for such a topic. My brother laughed and said I should step up and pop the question. I tried to joke it off, but the mood at the table changed. My younger sister said she thought I was already engaged. I corrected her, But my brother said it was about time. My partner looked disappointed, and the mood shifted again. My brother's wife added that we should all be celebrating family milestones. I felt cornered as my family began discussing future plans for children. My brother suggested we should all take a trip to celebrate the upcoming arrival. My partner excitedly agreed, adding to the pressure. After dinner, I went to the kitchen to clean up. My brother followed, still excited about the baby news. I said I needed more time before making big decisions. My brother brushed it off, saying life waits for no one. My partner overheard and pulled me aside. They expressed disappointment at my lack of planning. We got into an argument about future plans during the drive home. They accused me of not taking our relationship seriously. The argument got worse, and my partner suggested we take a break. Days passed without communication from my partner. I got a text from my brother asking about the proposal. I feel like I'm stuck in a really tough spot right now. My family is always pushing me to do what they think is right for me, but they don't care about how I feel. My partner used to understand me, but now they're acting like I'm the bad guy. I don't know if I even want to get married, especially if it's just because everyone else wants me to. I don't think a break will help me figure this out. I'm not doing well, so any advice would be much appreciated. Edit. I appreciate the feedback and wanted to clarify some things. My family has always pressured me, especially after my brother's wedding when they assumed I was next. I've been with my partner for 3 years, and we have talked about the future before. The break is more about giving us space to think. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.